Oh, hey Nolan, what's up? Sorry, I'm missing chats here. I'm concentrated trying to get this bandana right. Yeah, I'm trying to shift all my lives to morning time, so 10 a.m. for me. It took about a month and a half off. So I think this is the 4th day in a row of streaming again. Gonna be live streaming every day for the next 2 weeks or so. And then got some more travel coming up. Let's see, you said nice in that time. I got a job working in Thanksgiving. Oh yeah, thanks man. Let's see. Yeah, Rouge has been commenting, and she's been up in the lives a little bit. I haven't seen Travis yet. To be fair, I think I only did one at the normal time. But like I was saying, I think you're East Coast, if I remember correctly. You're out in Pennsylvania. So I'm trying to shift everything so it's 10 a.m. my time. And catch a little bit more of the US and Europe that way. Nice. That's a good sign. First interview, get the job. I'm glad that worked out for you. I'm at that stage in the drawing where I've got to fill in some of the boring details. It's great for time lapses, but it's a tough watch in real time. Trying to catch these chats as well. Oh man, that's a bummer. But from an older dude, I can say it's a blessing in disguise. That's, those types of things suck when they're happening, but you're better off without someone that would do that. Actually happened to me when I was in high school. I was dating a girl that was kind of always sweet with one of my good friends, and then we broke up, and the day after we broke up, they started dating, and they are married and have 4 kids now. So good for them. Yeah, man, I would see that one's a victory even though it's probably not fun at first. Yeah, it's a good thing, man. I think arguing is also like it's always a red flag. Like disagreements are one thing in relationships, but arguing is a different animal. I've been in bad relationships like that though before, so I get it. Nice. It's funny, the last few lives that I've done, not many people are talking, so it's nice to have a regular back in here. I think most people either want to ask about art or potentially like spam bots, but like Nolan and Travis and Rouge, all the folks that were kind of daily appearances in my last lives, it's just like normal conversation. Yeah, the spam bots, I'm not really sure. Like, I don't know if it drives interaction on their channels. I mean, every once in a while I've clicked over to see, like after a live stream ends, to see what those accounts are, and it's always like a bunch of stolen videos. So I think it's just like bots, like driving traffic to their accounts. It's like the same thing as those accounts that set their like their avatar, their profile image as a live badge, like they're always live. But a lot of the time I'll see that stuff and it's a video that I watched live years ago. But I guess the algorithm isn't clever enough to pick up on that stuff. Oh, nice. my driver's license. I gotta renew mine. We're in California here, and it's sort of a unrealistic hellscape to get any sort of driver's license progress done. Sort of like walking through a zombie apocalypse to renew anything. Plus, in California, since I have a Texas license, they require us to retest. If you're new to driving, as someone that drove for most of my career in music, like we were doing long hauls and pretty much several 100,000 miles on the road every single year. Something that they don't tell you when you're learning to drive is that speeding doesn't actually achieve anything unless you're on like a cross-country trip, because in average you're going to be slowed down by other traffic and other events. I used to prove this all the time. If friends wanted to like race to a certain location, I would drive like normal and we'd get there at the exact same time, and they would have been like redlining their cars and blowing through lights and trying to turn and make like quick routes. Driving at a slower pace will save you on gas, insurance costs in the future. But it's like people who speed on the highway. I used to ride with people that just constantly are like lead foot on the gas. And if you stop to go to the bathroom or get like something from a truck stop, all that speeding was for nothing. Everyone that you pass will eventually catch up and pass you, and then you'll have to pass them all over again. It's kind of pointless. I'm one of those guys that loves cruise control. Yeah, some driver's tests are confusing. I have a few friends here in California that failed the California driving test after having been licensed in another state for decades. We're kind of on the fence right now whether or not we're going to stay here, so I'm kind of like tempted to just renew in Texas. I'm going to have to fix this Texas shape, it looks terrible. It's alright. Yeah, I can't really tell with these live streams. It seems like it's kind of the same results whether I talk or not. Kind of like before, it starts to chase some people off when I'm talking, but I don't really care. Like I've said a bunch, I would be doing this if I wasn't live. I mean, this is pretty much what I do every day, so I think it's more of an experience of whether or not people have sorry, I just got distracted real quick. It's more so if people want to experience what it's like to watch me draw in real time. Like typically I'd be drawing around my family or at like a cafe out in the city, so I end up talking to people anyway. Oh, right on. Yeah, I don't ever mind talking. I'm a generally long-winded guy. As many people have told me, I speak in paragraphs. What kind of car did you get? Buick Concord. Nice. Oh yeah, my brother's first car was a Buick. This is old though. It was an '82 Buick Electra. The lining for the ceiling was falling out, and so we had probably 50 pins, like band pins, stuck in it to hold it up. It was kind of a catch-22. It held the lining off your head, but then every once in a while he'd jam the brakes and one of the pins would fall out and you have to end up dodging like a sharp pin while we're moving down the road. Yeah, my first car, I really wanted a muscle car. I was just kind of under like the misconception that my dad was going to help me get a cool car. And so he kind of dangled this Dodge Charger in front of me and was saying we'd go look at it. Yeah, we'll go check it out. It was a '68, so not the Duke's version, but the year before. It was I want to say it was a 4-speed metallic green. It was one of the coolest cars ever. I still every once in a while will look around for that model. And then he was saying that we could go look at it, and they said just out of curiosity, and he pulled up an insurance portal and typed in my age in the car, and it was like $700 for insurance every month. It's kind of like a mean way of telling me I was dreaming. So I should have just gone for a truck or an SUV, but I really wanted like an older car, and we found, I wouldn't say mint, but in really good condition, a '71 Chevy Caprice. It had a 400 small block engine, so it wasn't, for the size, it wasn't super fast, but it sounded cool. From the back, it looked like a muscle car. From the front, oddly enough, I had like during my, I used to do like a home driving course because we lived out in the country in Texas, so there wasn't really like a driving school. And while my dad and I were logging hours of me driving supervised, this guy, like a drunk driver, missed a corner and like slammed into the front of my car and wrecked the front cowling where like, the Chevy Caprice logo sticks up the hood ornament, and kind of trashed the grill. And then he drove off, and I was really upset about it at first, but then the only way for them to fix it was to make a custom grill and a custom cowling, so then it looked like more of like a muscle car nose, but it was a 4-door, so it was like a giant granny tank. It was good. I mean, it was a solid first car. Got like back in that time, everyone was really obsessed with like glass packs and dual exhaust and stuff like that. I never sprang for the exhaust, but I did get a glass pack on there, which is probably like, I'm sure most people don't know what that is, but it's essentially like a thing that goes on the muffler, and as you wear it in or loud on it, it breaks up and it gets louder and has like a different sort of sound to it. We found out also if you submerge them in water, one of my friends put his dual exhaust under water on a boat ramp. It breaks up the glass in a different way and makes it even louder. It's just like those weird things you find out, but Yeah, still think about that car. That one, the Caprice, was metallic white with a black vinyl top. And then it was kind of funny. I had like a JBL system in it, and it was really loud. It has like a domed back window on it, so that also sends a lot of noise up front if the speakers are in the window. But the seat belts, because I had a lap belt and a chest belt, they are so tight that I couldn't reach the stereo controls, so I had to have a remote, which I think a lot of people thought was funny, but there was literally no way to change anything on the stereo unless I unbuckled my chest belt. But there's no airbags or anything in that kind of car, so you don't want to cruise around too much without chest belt on, especially with the way we all drove back then. But it was a good car. Solid, pretty safe. I think if I could go back and pick a different car, I would have just gotten straight into a Toyota 4Runner. So I've had two of those, and you can't really go wrong even with a newer model. But anything 90s or early 2000s Toyota is always a good investment. Speaking of what you were asking about, or saying earlier with having a breakup and bad girlfriend and all that, I had my ex before my wife totaled my last, or not my last, but my main 4Runner. So at the time it seemed pretty bad, but it's actually one of the greatest things ever. There's a lot of dead weight that I shed in that. I do miss that car. I used to pull an RV with it. Pretty much like it was where I lived for a number of years. Not in the car, but in the RV. I gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I think having bad gas mileage can suck, but having a solid car, especially one that you didn't have to like pay a ton for, it's all right. I've had a lot of cars that had bad gas mileage. That's actually the last 4Runner I had. We lived in Houston during Hurricane Harvey, and we had, I want to say it was a 2001. It's actually given to us by some really close family friends because they knew that we were down to one car. They gave us this, I think it was 2001 Toyota 4Runner, and it was one of the best cars ever, but it was one of the larger motors that they put in that model. And it had like a cool air intake. It had one of the more unique transmissions because it had like too low, too high. You could do 4-wheel and all-wheel drive. There were all these different settings that you could mess with. It was kind of the ultimate hauling car. Also, like, for the benefit of our kid, it had a moonroof on it, which was nice at the time. But during Harvey, once the storm had kind of subsided, I was going out to get in the car to go help my uncle clear debris out of his house because their house flooded up to the second floor. I couldn't find my car in the garage. And after walking around and looking for it, I realized somebody had stolen it. And then it took 2 weeks to get the footage from our apartment because they were trying to make sure they weren't going to get sued for, you know, having multiple cars stolen out of the garage during a hurricane. But by the time I got the footage of that car being stolen and showed it to the police, the officer said, well, they're definitely people. And I asked him what he meant. He said, well, it's just people, man. We're not going to find them. Your car's probably chopped up. And he said that a lot of the times with cars like that, they'll take them down to Mexico and either strip them or chop them and part them out. But, yeah, that was maybe one of my favorite vehicles. But I think long term, I'll probably get another one of those. Buy like an older model, fix it up. The main issue I ever had with them, aside from people crashing them or stealing them, was the fuel injectors would go out every once in a while, but it's a relatively easy fix. It's funny, you'd think from drawing Willie Nelson there'd be more like country folk popping up. I've had just about no interaction from anyone that likes this. Most of the people have asked me who I'm drawing, which, I mean, now it's a little more obvious because I'm starting to get his bandana done. But yesterday or the day before, somebody was telling me I should draw like rappers. And, I get the idea of suggesting drawings, but also if somebody's in the middle of a drawing, what's the point of suggesting something? But also, it's kind of shocking. Who doesn't know Willie Nelson? Like, I know he's old, but, you know, it's Willie Nelson. Maybe people just don't know anymore, and because I'm from Texas, it's just kind of baked in information. But Willie Nelson's great for a lot of reasons. Pretty sure he's 92. Kind of had like multiple careers, all doing the same thing. If you look at early Nelson albums, it's he's got like sort of the Sinatra hair, looks more like a young Johnny Cash. And then he burned out on the industry and moved to Texas and basically started what became the Austin music scene. And his whole thing was that all the hippies and the rednecks got along there, so everyone should be there. And so he kind of like revolutionized that whole world, and still does like his festival out on his ranch, and you know, I feel like most people would be pretty hard pressed to find any sort of negative anything about Willie Nelson. I think most people know him as like braids and partying Willie, but he's, you know, he's had a lot of different stages of public life. Yeah, it is interesting. A lot of like younger generations don't really know much of anything. I'm officially at that age where I feel old anytime people make references. But especially musically, I feel like it's like having been part of the music industry for 20 years. Everything is so short-lived now. There's not really like legends anymore. Yeah, with Willie, he's one of those guys I go back to a lot, where I'll pick one of his random albums and go and listen to all the different eras. I think the one that I default I think it's kind of my favorite Willie album, even though there's a couple tracks I skip. It's Red-Headed Stranger. Like Time of the Preacher might be one of my favorite songs in that genre. I wouldn't say it's in my top 10 overall, but certainly in the top 10 for like original country. Because, you know, like even Red-Headed Stranger is a great song, but Time of the Preacher, the first one on that album, is, you really hear like how well Willie could sing and sort of how free-flowing it was. It wasn't like structured, typical country. really having to embrace the inconsistencies here. I think most people, when they draw, they try to draw symmetrically. But even in this reference photo, his braids are, this one's giant and kind of loose, this one's really tight. His bandana's on crooked, the wrinkling around his eyes is different, so it's kind of a practice in trying to represent how he actually looks in the reference photo. I don't really think about this stuff too often, but in terms of live streaming, when I look around on all the different platforms, I see like thousands of people watching someone superimposed over a video game screen talking about nothing, not even actually like live gameplay, and I don't get it. Like, I'm not sure like what the appeal of that is. So I know that I'm in like a pretty niche area here, but it seems like since I've started back on live streaming, I'm seeing sort of different numbers, whether it's at the time that I was streaming for, you know, the whatever 35 days in a row, or like the new like morning time stream. I've talked about it a little bit before, but other than right in this very moment, it's so loud in our building, and just living in the city, I can't really call these ASMR. Because half of the time, if I plan to not speak, then usually there's so much noise from our neighbors that the audio is kind of useless, not necessarily peaceful. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about, is like the Roblox stuff and all that. I think where it's like the most frustrating is, and I see it more on TikTok than on YouTube, but people with video game footage in the background talking about other live streamers. It's kind of like the industry eating itself. It's like no real, not like real community, you know? Like, I don't know, I see a lot of live streams of debates, which some of that appeals to my brain, but even then, you really get like the lowest of the low in terms of like the people that try to join the live debates. And it's just like a lot of trolling and negativity. It just seems like a real bummer. Yeah, today it's actually relatively quiet, which maybe I should shut up and just draw so y'all can hear the pencil. But I think most days you could probably play like a few games of neighbor noise bingo. Like, how many times my upstairs and downstairs neighbors blow their noses or do their dishes in a way that sounds like they're actually throwing them from across the room. It's astonishing how noisy our building is. It's kind of like one of the main reasons why we're considering not staying here for too much longer. But San Francisco rental prices have gone way up again, so it's kind of limiting on options unless we're going to relocate. Oh yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff about living in San Francisco, despite what most of the news says. Um, the walkability is really nice. It's nice, cool weather all the time, so it's never really too hot, except for 1 week out of the year. Um, we don't drive here, just because we can pretty much walk or catch an Uber for a fraction of the price of having a car, or like having to constantly replace windows because of the crime. But my wife and I both grew up in the country, so like we kind of know both worlds, and I don't know, it is nice to not have to like load up in a car to go get groceries. We could just walk to the market, and there's, the ocean's 10 minutes away by foot, and one of like the most historic neighborhoods in the country is a 15-minute walk from us. So there's a lot of stuff that appeals to what we're into, but in terms of like living quality, it's a gamble. Like we're in a pretty old building, and our apartment's really big compared to the average San Francisco apartment, but it's not without its challenges. Most of the neighbors are, I don't know, at least on our side of the building, they're pretty loud and inconsiderate. But I think our next place, wherever we live, we're not going to share walls with anybody. We've got to be in a standalone building. But yeah, there are definitely days where I miss being in the country. Like specifically Texas, like hearing like the cicadas and sort of heat at the end of the day with the sunsets. Here it's, I don't know, there's kind of like a different feel. Like I do love being able to walk and just look at the Golden Gate and all the fog rolling in, because it's like a 10-minute walk for us. Like holidays are kind of nice, or just Halloween, and the city really goes all out for it. But I do miss having, for one, just a music studio at home. That's one of the biggest ones, is not having like a completely sound isolated room. And eventually these live streams, I'd like to do multi-camera setups. But my current studio setup right now is basically like an old laundry room that I've converted into like a very narrow drawing space. Like the desk that I'm currently using is a stand, like an automated standing desk, and I had to saw off most of the corners and about half a foot on either end of it to fit it in this area. So it's just limited on real estate for those types of things. And I can't really record in here either, so it's not great for music. Like if I want to play guitar in here, I have to stand sideways, kind of in the unnatural position where there's no room for microphones or anything. So it's kind of funny. At some point I'll tidy it up and show this space on the live stream. I've thought about like starting by showing everyone where I'm actually drawing. It's not all bad. It's there's a lot of great stuff about the city and where we are, but I don't know, I miss being able to play drums at any time of day, or plug in and play really loud, like guitar, lap steel. And here, that's just never an option. This drawing is taking a lot longer than some of the other ones. I think eventually I'll get back to doing 2 or 3 live drawings for each face, but there's a lot going on in this one. I've mentioned this in just about every other live, but if people have questions about art, I'm always happy to answer them, but I rarely want to talk about art while I'm drawing. It's a little redundant and kind of makes me bored. I also haven't really developed it much, but I do have a Patreon, which eventually I'll start shifting over to that for more of the technical stuff. Because I do teach private art lessons here, and have a lot of information I could put on there, but don't necessarily want to just give it away to the live stream. But that's not really a priority right now. More of what I'm doing here is just kind of documenting the process of making the art that goes to individual sales or galleries. That way people can kind of see my process, and if they do end up purchasing the art, there's somewhere to direct them, or I can give them a link and say, here's the long form and the time lapse of it all being created. More of a, I guess it's not necessarily personal, it's totally related to this, but some kind of exciting news. These sketchbooks and journals that I use in all of my art, what I'm literally drawing in right now, the leather and the paper, I am officially an ambassador for that company now, which is called Paper Republic. And I've yet to see what they're going to send, but I've got some stuff on the way to sort of demo and use. Try to have a little bit more of a focus on why I actually use the stuff that I'm using. It's kind of cool because it's a company that I used to sell all of their products when I worked at a store here in the city. And everyone sort of jokingly referred to me as the Paper Republic guy, because no matter what people came in for, I would always encourage them to get that, because I'm really big on journaling and sketching. And then I'd show them mine, and they would inevitably sort of be interested in like the patina that the leather gets, and getting it debossed or embossed. And a lot of friends that I've made here in the city have kind of been connecting over those journals. just kind of like superior products and also cool. I'm one of the people who grew up on like the Indiana Jones movies in terms of the movies that I'd watch over and over and over. The third one was kind of always my favorite, which I know is sacrilege to a lot of people that are obsessed with Raiders, but the third one I think is the most complete movie, and it didn't really occur to me until later on, but one of my favorite things in that movie is Dr. Jones' Grail Diary, which is eventually what I kind of ended up getting without really noticing it for a while. My brother actually pointed it out, that I basically got the exact same book that he has for the Grail Diary. If you're watching and you don't get these references, go watch all the Indiana Jones movies, even the new ones. Some city music. to make some pierogies. Yeah, I don't know how to spell that, to be honest. Message received. It was so random that I'm thinking about this, but when I was growing up in West Texas, there was it's like probably a pretty dated reference, but the Swan Man. It's a guy who would drive around in a big freezer truck and sell people frozen dinners. It's really common out there. And my mom bought, I think they were discounted for a reason, but she bought like a bulk order of pierogies. And we ate those for like 6 months. I don't think I would ever eat one again. But, you know, 90s food. Oh, nice. What kind of dogs do you have? Maybe we talked about this before. I can't remember. Oh, nice. Our kid is begging me to get a dog again. It's hard to replace the last one. She was kind of the perfect dog. You said, do I prefer fluffy or less fluffy dogs? I honestly grew up with Huskies, so I don't mind a fluffy dog. Our last great dog she was definitely part Malinois, but I don't know what else was in there. Maybe Chow or something, or Akita, because she's like a big golden looking Malinois Husky mix. So I don't mind them. Yeah, I thought about getting a German Shepherd. I'd be happy with a long hair or short hair. I've also had like cattle dogs and stuff like that. I had a great Staffordshire Dachshund mix. She looked like a really jacked Dachshund. It's kind of funny. I think that's probably the only short-haired dog I've had in my adult life. Most of the other ones have been healers or something along those lines. Feeling like this one's about done. There is some more work that I can do in here, which I might do. I'm thinking about how much I want to dig into the details on his bandana. There's also an odd shape of something on the top of his bandana that's rolled up, but I don't know how well that translates to this design. So you said you probably asked this before, but what is the tattoo on my thumb? Oh, tattoos on my thumbs are teeth. They're molars. There's an old sailor tradition that they would, like in certain cultures, they would get tattoos on their return from like a long journey, like an end of season kind of tattoo. And when people started returning from long journeys, they would get tattoos of teeth, which is also a reference to horses. Horses' teeth, to my knowledge, never stop growing. There's a couple sayings that relate to this. There's a saying, never look a gift horse in the mouth. What that's referring to is if somebody gives you a horse, you don't pull up their lips and look at their teeth to see how old the horse is. You just accept the gift. Also, long in the tooth, referring to someone being old, is a horse reference. You'd say that horse is a little bit long in the tooth. And so they kind of overlap in that sense, but it's like an old sailor's tradition to get teeth after you return from a long journey. It shows your age and the fact that you're still alive even as you're older. I used to travel for a living for a long time. So usually if I didn't get a tattoo on the tour that I was on, I would get one when I got home. And those were actually a birthday gift from my wife. Probably about 10 years ago. Which was when I was still touring. But yeah, most people ask if they're rabbit ears, or I don't know, I've had a lot of dentists tell me they like them. But not that, I'm definitely not the type of person that thinks every tattoo needs to have some backstory. But those just, I thought it was a cool tradition. Since I traveled for a living, I thought it certainly applied to me. I'm hopefully going to start getting my right arm more covered this coming year. Kind of depends on whether or not we're staying or moving somewhere else, because I don't want to start with one artist and jump around. But I've been waiting to get the top of my right hand done, because I have, my left hand is mostly covered, and then I'm going to get my lower knuckles done. I've toyed with the idea of tattooing in general. I actually have all the setup to do it, and I've spent some pretty extensive time documenting tattoo artists when I was living in Austin years ago. And so I've gotten more than enough front row experience, and just need to get licensed and get all the certifications to be an apprentice. But that's honestly my main hesitance with tattooing, is I don't necessarily want to go an apprentice and start fresh somewhere. And I don't really want to have a legal setup or people at my house. But it definitely crosses my mind as often as I'm drawing. Most of the tattoo artists that I talk to these days say that people don't even draw on paper anymore, they're drawing on iPads. So it's kind of a lost art that I'm drawing tactily on my various sketchbooks. And my knuckles, actually, most people don't even get the reference anymore, but my knuckles say Time Lord, which is a Doctor Who reference. That's like I have Tom Baker on my arm and a Dalek under my watch there, the TARDIS back here. But it's kind of a dated reference. I mean, that Doctor was in the 70s and the 80s. And then on my bicep I have Matt Smith, who was my favorite modern Doctor. But that show kind of jumped the shark. That's pretty much what most of my left arm tattoos are. And my right arm's a little bit more piecemeal, which is kind of the style that I prefer now. I have like it's a reference to this old cabin that used to be in our family. It's the year it was built, and then our family flower. And then I have like a little flying pig with my grandmother's nickname on it. Got kind of a bunch of them. This is a True Romance reference, Pie and Coffee. I have like a matching pear tattoo that my wife also has. I got Texas with the yellow rose. That's a video camera with handcuffs on it. It's kind of like an inside joke. Got a bunch of them. Got a mom tattoo. I've got a little cowboy for one of my friends who is kind of a funny cowboy dude. I've got a popsicle on the back of my arm. Got a dinosaur. I don't know if you can see it, but it's like a pterodactyl there. very tempted to put this shape that's on his bandana. I can't really tell what it is from this photo. It almost looks like it's a mountain, or it might be like a crunched up hat. It's kind of nonsensical on here, so I might just leave it. I got most of the text in there. All right, I'm gonna hit this bandana one more time, just get it a little bit darker, and then probably call it. Sort of the downfall of using the graphite that I'm using is that it doesn't really get much darker than this. You get a lot of like graphite dust and gouges in the page if you push too hard. But I do want it to pop a little bit more, so I may just switch back over to my Blackwing pencil. Which, if anyone's curious about these, I have no shortage of opinions about Blackwing in general as both a brand and like the range of pencils they make. I don't endorse them, and I don't work with them at all. I just am a fan of their products sometimes. But the last several portraits that I've done have been with the extra firm natural Blackwings, which is what I'm using right now. And they're all right. It's been the one that's kind of the best range for what I do. I do prefer, they say it's the same as the 602 series, which is the graphite gray ones. They're sort of standard issue Blackwings. But there's a Frank Lloyd Wright signature series that I probably have. Let me see. Yeah, it's the Blackwing 71s. They all come in different eraser colors and different pencil colors, and I've gotten to the point where they're all so short that I either have to do small details or I need to get one of the holders that fits into the eraser. They say that those are the same as the 602 standards, but they don't feel the same. The graphite just doesn't feel the same at all to me. They're supposed to be the same kind of medium soft, which I do prefer for certain things, but I'm hesitant to buy more of the 602s because they just don't quite compare to those, so it may have just been a one-off. I think with smaller companies like that, they tend to have inconsistency, and it's really kind of getting into the weeds in terms of how much I really care about that stuff. I'm also a big proponent of just drawing with whatever you have. Like, I have hotel pencils and pens that I collect. If that's what I have on me, I'll draw with that. But for as much time as I'm spending on portraits, specifically in graphite, I do want a little bit better of a pencil instead of just a standard issue school pencil. But if I were doing quick portraits, oh nice, thanks Nolan. Thanks, Enrique. Let's see. Is that Spanish? I should be better at reading it if it is. Okay. Yeah, I wish there was more consistency in these pencils. It's just kind of not been there. This is the longest lasting natural extra firm that I've had. Okay, thanks, Nolan. But really, like, for the price of these pencils, I feel like there's a couple things they should really change. For one, I feel like if you're going to buy a whole case of them, they should just include an extender instead of having them perpetually like sold out or overpriced, because it is just a thing that fits in where the eraser goes, and a regular pencil extender won't fit because it is a square eraser. The other thing is that it seems like their erasers only change in color, not in density. And to me, it would seem more appropriate to have an eraser that matches the graphite. So like if you're using a softer graphite, it would give you a softer eraser. And then you could mix and match if you want a hardline eraser. But I've only had one really positive interaction with them. That's not a knock. I think it's just it's more indicative of the fact that they have probably like interns or very, very small staff that kind of run everything. And so they've like reposted things of mine twice, I think. But anytime I give like feedback, it's sort of like they don't even respond to it. Which something that I don't like about that is that I feel like for a company that's small and not actually the original Blackwing company, it's like they bought the brand name, I guess, and then they're trying to remake them as close as they can to the original thing. They seem to be more focused on just pumping out signature series, because they've had like a early Yankees edition like DiMaggio series, they've had a Bruce Lee series, which for anyone that doesn't know, DiMaggio and Bruce Lee are both from San Francisco. Even though he was famously not playing baseball here, he was from here, played here in high school, and got married to Marilyn Monroe at one of the Catholic churches here in the city. But they do like signature series. They've done NASA, Golden Gate series, and all these. Frank Lloyd Wright. But I don't know, it seems to be more of a product, sort of like turning out products focus for them rather than improving, which I think in the long run doesn't really make a lot of people want to reinvest, especially as expensive as these pencils are. But I might try and go back to the 602s if I don't like any of the signature series and just draw a few portraits with those to see if I get a better feel for them. I packed a bunch of these natural pencils. They're the extra firm Blackwings for the trip that we went on for the last month, and a lot of it is that I didn't want to go through the pencils too quickly, and unfortunately with these, to keep a good edge on them, even though it's an extra firm, you just have to sharpen it nonstop, and so you chew through the pencils really fast. So if you're doing any high detailed work or any smaller things, you go through quite a few of them a little too fast for my taste, which is why most of like my drawing while I'm traveling is done with these. These are Pentel Graph Gear 1000s, 0.3 and a 0.5. I also have a 0.9 if I want to draw like a little bit bigger and faster. but these are kind of like the best that I've found. They also, for traveling, the nibs completely retract when you press on the pen clip, so you don't break your lead as often. That way also, if I want to have a little bit of variance in the HB or the density of the lead, I can just get refills for them and swap them out. As much as I love drawing with these pencils, I do think that it's more practical to draw with the mechanical pencils. It just takes too long on a large scale like this. Especially like if I'm trying to get them to be a little bit closer to being photoreal. With the pocket-sized drawings that I do as well, those portraits, I typically use the mechanical pencils on those. And those take sometimes 4 hours or more to get them really how I like them. And so if I were to do that on this scale, which I might again at some point, I do balance both pencils, but if I were to do that on a larger scale, it just ups the amount of time that I have to spend per portrait, which is fine. But I do like to kind of move through these where it's 3 or 4 days at most on one portrait. It's also all a balance as well because of the grit of this paper. These are relatively smooth. They're 150 GM. So if you were to go down to like a 130 or even up, it would change the relation of the pencil and the graphite to the paper. But I prefer this weight of paper with this grit, especially for portraits. You get like a certain kind of pebbling in the skin, which is sort of like natural aging or wrinkling. I don't really love how that Texas looks, but it's honestly what it looks like on his headband, or his bandana, because it's a little bit scrunched there. And there are some designs that go over it in the photo, but I left those out because it would be too, like, pretty much impossible to recreate that with an eraser, because they're overlapping whiteout designs. So I'm just simplifying it for the sake of this. But really with these, it's for the same reason that I don't often draw the full bust. I prefer to just draw the portrait of the face. On my smaller drawings, when I do draw, you know, their neck and their shoulders and all that, I feel like it does take away from the whole idea of just drawing like a well-represented face, especially in graphite like this. And just for the sake of these live streams, it's incredibly boring because I basically have to do what I'm doing right now, but 5 times more real estate to cover, so it's just a lot of what looks like adult coloring book stuff. And I don't really enjoy that. We'll see though, if these go to gallery and they want a full representation and not just the face, then I might add to them. Which, if that happens, I'll document that process as well. It's also kind of an odd, like, rough cut Texas that's on this bandana. It sort of bugs me, but it just is what it is. Alright, I think for now I'm going to call it on this one. I may revisit it. If I do, I'll document it, at least in a time lapse. But that's 4 days of drawing Willie Nelson. I mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to start trying to draw at 10 a.m. my time every day, so 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I might jump on for some nighttime streams as well. It just kind of depends on how I'm feeling on drawing. I don't want to overdo it, but should be on daily for, let's see, today's the 5th, so for the next 13 days I'll be on around 10 a.m. every day. Right now it's 12:18 p.m. for me, so it's lunchtime. I think I'm 3 hours behind you, Nolan. But I should be on every day. If not at 10 a.m., then I'll be on at 5 p.m. my time, so West Coast time. These all get archived if you want to go back and draw along or watch them. It's hit or miss. Sometimes I'm talking, sometimes I'm just drawing silently, kind of however the mood strikes me. If you have art questions, I'm happy to answer them. I already have most of the series picked out for who I'm going to draw, so if you want to suggest people to draw, I always take those into consideration, but typically I'm drawing these for like gallery purposes or for like individual commissions and just different series. But yeah, and then when I finish these, I will always distill them down into a 10-second time lapse so you can see start to finish what the process is. Thanks for watching. Good talking to you again, Nolan. See you next time.